What's up, guys? Philly Soccer Page post-game show with Mike Servedio and Matthew DeGeorge from Delco Times. Union fall 2-1 to Real Salt Lake tonight. Two great goals from Salt Lake. Time to worry for Union fans?
It might be getting close.
Yeah.
I mean, two great goals, yes, but as Jim Curtin mentioned in his post-game press conference, two goals that kind of were preventable in certain ways by not giving the players the space to do what they did. João Plata and Javi Morales, those were both wonderful goals and real moments of brilliance. But there's a lot, as Jim Curtin pointed out, there's a lot of instances in the build-up to those where maybe the Union can extinguish a fire, maybe they can, play the ball out or something like that and prevent that from happening. And that's kind of a problem. You look now, 8 games in MLS, 19 goals given up, and that is a number that is just way too large. Even if you take out the Montreal game as a blip, that's way too many goals to be giving up, and that's a real problem.
I think the Union had 3 shots on target tonight, including the penalty kick, Roland Alberg's 7th goal of the season. Created a couple of chances. There's the one that Sapong misses at the end there. Brian Carroll has one saved by Raimondo. Did you think that they created enough going forward?
I think a lot of those chances were created from kind of the 75th minute on, which is when you bring on Herbers, you bring on Fernandez and Letou, and it's kind of free-for-all mode. It's just everyone going forward and just playing balls into the box and hoping something happens. There wasn't enough today, and I don't know what you kind of credit it to. I don't think Chris Pontius had his best game today.
I didn't think so either.
I think CJ Sapong only had 9 touches in the first half, so not enough of balls getting into him. Curtin alluded to that with him and Alberg, that they, and Ilsinho to a degree, you need to play more balls into their feet. And I think you miss having a number 8 who really jumps into the play. Warren Creavalle, you can't really say he had a great game when you give up 2 goals at home. He maybe didn't have a poor game, but he just doesn't do what Vincent Nogueira and Tranquillo Barnetta do, which is jump into the box late and provide that extra runner and that incisive back post run and stuff like that, and that was really big today.
I think it really limits the options out of the back, too. I thought RSL, particularly in the first half, did a really great job of only allowing either Richie Marquez or Ken Tribbett to play the ball out of the back, and it seems like they don't have as many ideas as when you had someone like Nogueira on the field.
Right, and you saw, I think they started to do a little tonight of making that concerted effort to split the center backs and drop Carroll deep, but that's really not necessarily Brian Carroll's game where he's best at. I mean, that's where if you have Carroll playing with someone like Mo Adu, you have Adu drop back there, and he can make the runs or the passes or whatever it may be. So they do have to figure that out. And right now, with Nogueira having departed and with Mo Adu still not back yet, they're really being exposed for a glaring absence in the middle of that field.
Yeah, I think so,
and it's really a problem.
I think so, too. Let's talk a little bit about the subs that came on. So you have, I think it's Fabian Herbers, Leo Fernandez, then Sebastian Letou. Obviously, Union pushed a little bit more late in the game, down by a goal. But did you think they did enough even after coming on?
I think they helped. I mean, whenever you bring, what you're going to get when you bring Letou in. He's going to be active. The ball's going to find him in dangerous spaces, and sometimes something good will happen. He just has that touch, but I don't think that it's not as coherent when they do that. It's hard to separate what they do well as a product of having to go forward and just rushing forward en masse, and how much of it is really playing the way maybe Jim Curtin wants them to play. I didn't think Herbers was all that involved. I thought Leo Fernandez was involved to a degree, but he's still missing something in this whole process. And whether it's the finish or something in the start, it always looks good, but it hasn't yielded any tangible results yet. So I think there's still some question marks there.
Ken Tribbett starts tonight. Josh Yaro started last weekend. Tribbett was the week before that. It's hard for me to get a read on what Jim Curtin sees as the difference in starting one over the other. What do you think that Jim was thinking when starting Tribbett tonight?
Honestly, I'm not fully sure. Olmez Garcia is not the most physical forward,
right.
So you would think maybe Josh Yaro.
I think just the passes out of the back, right?
A little bit. I mean, Tribbett does distribute okay from the back.
And I thought he had one of his better games tonight.
Yeah, I mean, he tends to go on walks sometimes, and he's kind of interesting in how he plays. I mean, both of them are guys that have potential to be good players in MLS, and they're guys that need to get games. So it is a difficult choice. It's not like, you're not choosing between a guy that has no future in Tribbett as opposed to Yarrow. They both are guys that you want to cultivate and grow as long-term contributors. I think part of it is Yarrow maybe gets some of the indirect blame from a bad collective week last week, and you just try and change something up. But now you might get into a situation where now you're alternating every other week, and it's difficult to kind of grow that chemistry. Now next week in DC you're not gonna have Fabinho, so that's one change that's already enforced on you. And now if you're talking about bringing Yarrow back in, there's a second, and all of a sudden half your back line is rebuilt.
Last question. Union go. I think it's a 3-game road trip now. So
yeah, they're not at home again until August 20th.
Right.
So
only one win on the road this season. What do they have to do to A, stop the rot, and B, win on the road again?
Well, it's a kind of a problem because early in the season when they did get some results on the road, you constantly would fall back on it's the confidence, it's the way that they want to play, and now that they're playing poorly, they have to kind of rebuild that confidence and whatever that's going to take. So I think that's part of it. I think part of it's converting more chances from open play. It's great that they have 8 penalty kicks this year, but the flip side is that that means that their goal total from the run of play is at best average in MLS. So it's about creating chances. I think maybe it's time to change things up in terms of that front line. Maybe it's bringing in Letou first start. Maybe it's putting Barnetta back as a number 10. Something like that could help, and that'll help both sides. But there's some kind of spark that they need to have. And the bright side is that in years past, that road spark has come out of nothing. I mean, you think back to 2013, some of the road results that they would get even last year, they would just come up with a road result out of nothing. And there's not always a lot of design or rhyme or reason as to how that happened. But there are some small things that they can do to build themselves back up to that point.
Great. We'll wrap up there. I'm Mike Servedio. Matt DeGeorge, check him out on Twitter and Delco Times. We'll be back here in 3 weeks, I believe. Right now, we're going to go find some air conditioning. Thanks for watching.